Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Book of Saint Cyprian. The Book of Saint Cyprian is believed to have been written by Saint Cyprian of Antioch, a pagan sorcerer who lived in the 3rd century AD. The book is what we call a grimoire, a sacred text of magical knowledge. This particular grimoire isn't a single text, but is composed of multiple pieces of literature whose origins are entirely unknown. Some have said the grimoire is made of writings that were created as recently as the 19th century. Many believe it was Saint Cyprian himself who filled the grimoire with all his knowledge of the black arts, including how to summon spirits and conjure devils. There is a lot going on inside the grimoire. It contains healing spells, prayers to the angels, examples of love magic, divination, and even instructions that explain how to perform exorcisms. There is also a bizarre section of the book that contains the locations of alleged buried treasures throughout Galicia in Spain. You might want to check it out and make notes. It also discusses animal magnetism, which was something made popular by German doctor Franz Mesmer in the 18th century. Animal magnetism is all about the invisible natural force which resides in all living things. It's a hypothetical force, though one that's been used in magic for thousands of years. At the end of the day, nobody knows who the true author of the book was. It may have been an ancient sorcerer, or it could have been multiple authors compiling their knowledge into one collection of texts. There is a version of the grimoire in Portuguese and in Spanish, and there is even a Scandinavian copy that dates back to 1529. No matter which version you read, the hidden secrets, spells, and dark magic are all the same. And now for number 9. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to Bob Ham for the super thanks. We wouldn't be here without support from viewers like you. And we really appreciate your feedback. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and join the family. Number 9. Ferdinand I's disturbing behavior. King Ferdinand I of Naples was one seriously sick and twisted individual. The 15th century monarch was one of the only rulers in history who created a museum of corpses as a way to frighten those who would challenge him. Ferdinand was known for his cruelty and for his own private collection of mummies. His father was Alfonso I of Naples, King of Sicily, King of Aragon, and King of Naples up until his death in 1458. When he passed away, Ferdinand was the only successor to the throne, even though he was Alfonso's illegitimate son. He was 35 years old when he became the king. He had a massive kingdom to oversee and had a lot of enemies who didn't believe he had a genuine claim to the throne. Over the years, Ferdinand had to fight many battles to legitimize himself. And as the years went on, he became more and more brutal. Any nobles who opposed him wound up being killed before they had a chance to take the fight to Ferdinand. As all this was going on, Ferdinand started doing something extremely unusual. He collected the bodies of his defeated enemies and mummified them. He then put them on public display in something he called the Black Museum. Ferdinand had his servants embalm anyone who stood against him, and then their preserved bodies were put into his personal museum. This gruesome display acted as a warning to anyone who would so much as think about treason. What do you think? Would it work for you? The Black Museum was an official institution until Ferdinand's death in 1494. He lived a long and healthy life as king, presumably because nobody dared to mess with him. Number 8. Iraqi Cave Demons. Archaeologists discovered a mysterious clay tablet in an Iraqi cave. The tablet was made 2,700 years ago, inscribed with a figure that experts say is likely a demon. The tablet shows a horned creature, part goat and part human. The monster stands with hoofed feet, a forked tongue, and a tail. Scientists from a museum in Berlin say the demon is named Bennu. He was the ancient Assyrian demon associated with epilepsy. Whenever somebody in ancient Assyria suffered from a seizure, a fit of insanity, or a sudden loss of consciousness, they were assumed to be possessed by the demon Bennu. The demonic entity was depicted as a goat because sufferers of epilepsy often cried out like a screaming goat, leading to the association. This is now one of the oldest artistic representations of a known demon. It goes back to the ancient Assyrian belief that all diseases were inflicted by either angry gods or malicious spirits. And just like how a modern exorcist might banish a demon from someone who is possessed, The Assyrians believed such things could be cured through rituals. It was genuinely thought that demons like Bennu could be forced from the body by shamans, thereby curing the afflicted. This newly found tablet is a testimony of the power demons had over Assyrian society. Number 7. The Valak Demon. Two of the most popular horror movies that have come out in the past few years include The Nun and The Conjuring. But did you know that the demon depicted in these films is in fact a real demon that allegedly terrorized people in the 17th century? The demon's name is Valak, and he appears in multiple medieval grimoires. Books on demonology and black magic once spoke of a sinister demon that would appear in the form of a child. The demon would then conjure spirits to do his evil bidding. He could summon serpent spirits from hell or possess living snakes. The demon Valak made his first appearance in the Key of Solomon when it was officially published sometime in the 1600s. Owen Davies, a professor and expert on witchcraft from the University of Hertfordshire, says the Key of Solomon was a book on how to command good and evil spirits. The book contains similar spells and instructions used by the great King Solomon from the Old Testament, who lived around the 2nd century BC. That would technically make Valak a demon dating back to before the days of Christ, 2,200 years ago. Out of the 72 demons listed in the grimoire, Valak is the 62nd. The book describes him as appearing like a boy with angel wings and riding on the back of a two-headed dragon. According to the text, his special power is to find snakes, locate hidden treasures, and command an army of no less than 30 demons. There is no scientific way of knowing if Valak was ever real, yet his name has persisted through time. It's a little shocking to think that such an obscure demon has been around longer than Christianity. What do you think? Do you believe in demons? Let me know in the comments. Number 6. The London Dungeon. The London Dungeon is a tourist attraction in the heart of London, England. The dungeon recreates some of the most ghoulish and disturbing historical events in the city's history. It's meant to be a frightening experience for visitors, while also being light and humorous in a dark kind of way. There are live actors, special effects, and even rides that are meant to make you feel like you're in old London. But recently, the horrifying history at the London Dungeon got a little too real when one of the props turned out to be real. The dungeon opened in 1974, and shortly after, a fake human skeleton was put on display as part of an exhibit. But just recently, the fake skeleton was proven to be real. According to museum curator Bill Edwards, the skeleton that was hanging in a cage at the tourist attraction was found to be a combination of human and artificial parts, something that was wired together years ago for unknown reasons. Catherine Pritchard, operations manager for the dungeon, said nobody had any idea there was a real dead body in their attraction. Nobody knows where the bones originally came from. There is speculation that the skeleton may have been smuggled from a grave over a century ago, when London doctors were using corpses for medical dissections. That's just a hunch though, and nobody really knows for sure how the skeleton made its way into the dungeon. Number 5. Ramses V. Ramses V died in 1157 BC. For about 4 years, he was a mighty pharaoh who ruled over Egypt with an iron fist. But then he was forcefully removed from the throne. His death didn't come from a battle, and it certainly didn't come from an accident. Instead, scientists believe Ramses V passed away after becoming infected with smallpox. He is the first known casualty of what happens to be the only disease scientists have ever eradicated. Smallpox is absolutely horrible. It's been around for over 3,000 years, spreading from one part of the world to another, usually by invading armies. The Spanish brought it to Mexico in the 16th century, resulting in the deaths of millions of Aztec people. Over the next 200 years, smallpox killed hundreds of thousands of Europeans and Americans annually. It was finally cured thanks to global vaccinations in the 1960s. When the mummy of Ramses V was studied, researchers were shocked to find evidence of smallpox. His brain was removed and replaced with linen, and so too were his eyes. His nostrils were also plugged with wax, and his organs were replaced with sawdust. His face was painted red, and his earlobes were stretched. But the weirdest part of his mummy was that researchers found small lesions on his head that looked like marks left behind by smallpox. If true, it makes him the earliest official case of the disease. Number 4. Boathouse victims. On August 24th in 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted. Unimaginable destruction rained down not only on the city of Pompeii, but also on its sister city of Herculaneum. Other smaller settlements near the Bay of Naples experienced similar destruction. But while Pompeii was consumed by ash, Herculaneum was attacked by something known as Pyroclastic Flow. This is essentially a burst of ash, gas, and rock that spewed straight from a volcano. It was an intense explosion that killed every living thing in its path. Since the 1980s, scientists have been searching through the ruins of Herculaneum to reconstruct early Roman life. They have found about 340 victims of the volcano. But here's the crazy thing. 152 of those victims were found clumped inside of a boathouse at the edge of the city. Many of the victims had been baked to death. The heat was so intense that, according to biological expert Miguel Villar, their brains may have been turned into glass. It's the same kind of heat that turns sand into glass. This was a sad and terrifying experience for the victims of Herculaneum. The collection of bodies found in the boathouse is one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking discoveries ever made here. These people likely sheltered together in fear, then found themselves being either cooked alive or suffocated by the noxious fumes. Number 3. Anasazi cannibals. For at least 2,000 years, the ancient Anasazi civilization occupied a huge part of the southwestern United States. The center of their civilization was Chaco Canyon, which reached its height between 850 and 1250 AD. Have you ever been there? Let me know in the comments. It was here where the ancient people of the desert got together to trade, engage in ritual ceremonies, and participate in politics. They built huge housing complexes and temples that they used to observe the stars. So it seemed as though they were extremely prosperous people. But then, around 800 years ago, all that started to change. The rain suddenly stopped, and drought killed their crops. And as a result, the Anasazi abandoned their homeland and ultimately vanished. Scientists still don't know what happened to these people. But there's something even more shocking. The Anasazi may have been bloodthirsty cannibals. At the archaeological site of Cowboy Wash, an abandoned Anasazi village, archaeologists found 7 human remains. And apparently, these ancient corpses showed evidence of cannibalism. We don't know how widespread it was, but the Anasazi definitely ate human flesh at some point. It could be that the community ran out of food and had no choice but to start eating each other. However, it could also be part of a ritual that scientists can't even begin to understand. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 2. The skeletons on Holy Island. Construction workers in Northumberland, England, found 7 graves in a parking lot during a recent building project. The graves are from the medieval times, and they were discovered at a place called Holy Island, or Lindisfarne. This place has an extremely rich history, with a monastery being founded on the rocky outcrop of land around 634. It was the Irish monk St. Aidan who turned the thin piece of land into a holy pilgrimage site. Holy Island was also home to St. Cuthbert, patron saint of Northumberland. In the early medieval days, Northumberland was largely controlled by the Angles and the Vikings. They left settlements all along the coastline to facilitate trade. Then, when the Normans invaded in the 11th century, they started building castles and towns. But no matter who was in control of the land, Holy Island remained a religious sanctuary home to monks. These 7 skeletons were found buried beneath the foundations of the parking lot, but nobody knows who they were or how they got there. In the near future, researchers are hoping to do testing on the human remains and learn more about the ancient history of one of Britain's holiest destinations. Number 1. A gateway to hell. The gateway to hell has been found in rural England of all places. In a small cave in the East Midlands, a short walk from 2 major highways, there is a portal to the underworld that was once used by demons and witches to terrorize humanity. At least that's what it seems like. Heritage experts recently revealed a collection of ancient markings inside the cave related to witchcraft. This is currently the biggest collection of witch markings found anywhere in the UK. Letters, symbols, and strange patterns were etched into the cold rock at a time when belief in witchcraft had Britain engulfed in hysteria. The markings date back to the 16th century, but nobody really knows what they were for. Expert Alison Fearn from Leicester University says they were likely protective marks. But what they were meant to protect is unknown. Who the markings were intended to keep out or in the dark and creepy cave is also a complete mystery. There may have been a witch that lived here, or perhaps the locals were afraid of cave demons. They might have even thought the cave was a portal to hell itself. And in order to protect themselves, the ancient people who lived here etched protective markings into the cave. You have to admit, caves would have been pretty creepy back in the day. Thanks for watching! Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around for more awesome videos. See you later. Bye!